Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall
How's everybody doing?
and Michael Reed.
Hello there, all you cool cats and kittens. That's
And
the
we're
fifth time we've said that.
and we're also joined by Ben Standig of The Athletic. Ben, we're huge fans. Thank you for joining us tonight, sir.
I appreciate that. But by the way, that line going back to the Tiger King, wow, does that seem like 800 years ago?
Doesn't it? Dude, that was a part of quarantine that just seems like it was like 2017 already. Like it's weird. I forgot that Tiger King even existed for a long time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And Earl Thomas is really benefiting from the crazy offseason this has been. I'll tell you what. So, Ben, we have to start this off. Right now, the news is circulating around Redskins Park about what the new name and the name situation is going to be. So if you can kind of educate us on what the kind of hurdles that Snyder has to go through to be able to get a new name, and is there a name in particular that you think is probably the best bet for him to pick?
Well, from a hurdle standpoint, I mean, it's not that complicated. I mean, yes, there's legal things like trademarks, and I know there's been people. I'm sure you guys have seen these reports out there that one guy's like squatting on a bunch of names, and we'll see how that goes. But look, money talks. I wouldn't worry too much about that if it comes to that. But ultimately, Snyder can just pick a name and say, "This is what we're doing." I think the question for me is, and this is what I wrote about the other day with David Aldridge on The Athletic, is we talk to people who've done this before, teams that have done this, branding experts, and almost universally, they're all like, "Take your time, put in the work, do the surveys, talk to your community, think about your audience. What is it you actually want to do?" I mean, to use the Washington Wizards as an example, the Wizards has nothing to do with this area, whereas the Baltimore Ravens, right? That's a connection to Edgar Allan Poe, and that has something to do with Baltimore. So what is the name to do? Like if we're talking Warriors, which is a very popular one, and some people think maybe is the leading candidate, I get the alliteration of it all, but what does that have to do with this area? Me personally, that one I don't like. I mean, Golden State's got that. So and it's very generic anyway, so I don't love that one. The Red Tails type thing, I get it. It makes sense. You can keep the HTTR, the colors, all that works. I know Red Wolves has gotten a lot of attention on social media.
Red Wolves has been blown
personally, that one kind of speaks to me, I think, of those three. But the difference is that, are they going to put in the work? If they just run this out because whatever, they want to just get the topic over with, they want to change the topic, as it's obviously not been some great news, then maybe you just do that and you hope for the best. At the end of the day, the Washington Redskins name was here for decades. Presumably this name will be as well. Do you want this to have meaning, or as one branding expert kind of phrased it, are you afraid that you could just become irrelevant with a knee-jerk move? And I think that's something to keep in mind. I just have no idea where their mindset is right now when it comes to these types of things.
Yeah, and I have to ask you because the whole consensus right now is that Dan Snyder did not think about making this name change until Ron Rivera walked into the building. But my one thought process is, if I was Dan, I would always have an ace in the back pocket, something that I could go to knowing that this would possibly come about. So there might be a chance. Is there a chance that Dan Snyder has had the Warriors or another name up and coming up this whole time? He has something in mind and it's just the last couple of the paperwork needed to be done? Or do you think that this is going to be a process that goes on for maybe not weeks or months, but possibly a year?
Well, I guess the thing is this. We all heard, the quote he gave a few years ago, "We'll never change the team name. You can, put that in all caps or whatever." Okay, cool. If that's his mindset, if that's really where his mind is at, I don't know he's been engaged that much. I was told he really hasn't been engaged. I mean, the reality is when they put out the statement on Monday saying we're officially changing the name, we've all watched the offseason parties they've had for draft parties, I felt like they had a lot of parties this offseason.
Yeah.
Pretty monumental moment, even though to me it was obvious we knew it was coming, but regardless, a monumental moment was basically a 3-page statement with no quotes. It doesn't doesn't seem to me like a situation where anybody's heart is in this. So maybe there were people you would like to imagine in Ashburn who were doing the legwork on these things, but whether Dan Snyder was engaged prior to a month ago, it seems unlikely based on the evidence we have, but I'm happy to be proven wrong. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
If he wasn't, then where are we at now, and who's helping advise him? Ron Rivera is busy. He's got a lot to do.
Yeah.
And Ron Rivera, he's also been here for 5 minutes.
Right.
Who is helping him make these decisions? So that to me is a big question, and that's why I just don't know how long he's been engaged.
And that's exactly what we were talking about right before you came onto the chat, is that somebody needs to get in there and help Ron Rivera. It seems like all this is kind of falling on Ron Rivera right now, at least from what we know from the outside perspective. And it seems just so unfair for a guy who's just came in here. Now he's got to deal with the name. Now he's got to deal with these allegations, the bad news that people are saying is going to be dropped. It's a lot to handle. He's got to focus on football. He's got to get his guys ready. And it's tough right now, man. It's scary.
Well, I remember when, the pandemic really hit, and we were all like, oh boy, what's going to happen with free agency, with any kind of work post draft. And that first time Rivera said that he spoke to the team and had a conversation with them about kind of what they were going to do. And then when he finished the call, he was like, oh, wait, I actually have to talk to everybody in the building, because that's who he is now. There is no team president. There is no general manager.
Yeah.
He already has a ton of responsibilities, and now all this, he just had to effectively, I guess, go hire. I mean, it seemed like it was fairly easy hires, but he had to go hire 2 people for the pro personnel department. He clearly just went to the well of guys he already knew. So yeah, he's super busy, and even if we give him the say, hey, look, it's fine, he can do some other things. The team name, really, that doesn't feel like a thing that this guy should be having to deal with. So yeah, he's got a lot to do, and it doesn't feel like he needs to be doing all this.
Yeah, and that was actually leads to what my next question was going to be to you, Ben, was did you have any issue with who Ron hired to replace Alex Santos and Mann? I wanted to ask because I didn't have a problem with it, because it looks like Ron wants to surround himself with people that he trusts and that he respects. And in years past with the Redskins, not everybody in the organization has been on the same page, and that would make a lot of sense to me for him to go get these guys so they're all on the same page. They all have the one goal in mind and set, and they're all in step with one another. Did you have a problem, or what is your opinion of those 2 hires?
I mean, I don't really know anything about them from a football perspective. Obviously, Don Warren is, one of the all-timers here, having played with the Hogs, and that makes for an easy one. You can't hit a better sweet spot than former Washington Redskins player and star team who also worked with Ron Rivera in Carolina. That's right. Sweet spot. I would just say this: regardless of whatever the take is on these 2 individuals, my only question is, I'm gonna have to do the math here at some point. How many people have they hired, and how many of them worked with Ron Rivera previously? I mean, obviously we get this is how life works on some level. You go to people that you know, but at the same point, if you're sort of trying to build a team to have the best and the brightest, it seems a little weird to me that you're just going to literally hire only people that you've already worked with. I mean, the amount of people he brought over from Carolina is fairly staggering. Yeah. So I do think that's a little confusing, and it's not like Bill Belichick taking everybody he had with the Patriots. Right. Carolina wasn't really, for whatever the reason, you can say Cam Newton injuries or not, weren't exactly crushing it the last couple of years. Right. So
they had some success, but not right.
Yeah, so I think it's a little curious, but okay, ultimately you do want the guy in charge to feel comfortable with who he's working with. I do think that's important. He's clearly making the hire, so that's not a bad.
Yeah, and the weird thing to me is it almost seemed like a quick Band-Aid. And it almost seems like these 2 firings of Alex Santos and Mann came out of nowhere, and Ron quickly had to be able to put 2 bullets in the chamber and get those jobs filled, and that's where he went with. And so it begs the question, what happened? Is this were those 2 moves something that he had in mind as soon as he walked in the building, or is this something that happened right away? And I feel like this is something that has happened over the weekend, and this is kind of like breaking news, and this is the best way that Ron knew on how to fill those Band-Aids. Do you have any insight with that?
Well, I know Warren's contract was only recently not picked up, I guess, by Carolina. I don't know about the other hire, Stokes. I don't know about his situation. Look, obviously Rivera must have been eyeing these guys to some degree because, again, he's hiring Carolina players. The Santos and Mann part is, I think, is the curious part, and just I know everybody is sort of over reporters in town being cryptic with what's going on, and I'm not trying to be by any stretch of the imagination. I reported what I could report on Sunday with regards to this situation, and can't do much more than that. If we're all talking about, hey, are the Redskins going to? I'm sorry, I guess I'm gonna have to wean myself off of saying that. But if we're saying Washington is gonna, sign this guy, or they're gonna bench that guy, we can sort of speculate. But there's, other things we just am not gonna speculate on because of the nature of, personal lives and things like that. So It's hard to say. So I would imagine that Rivera had a thought that a lot of this was going to happen and that this was how he would replace these guys. But yeah, it does make for an easier transition, especially 2 weeks before the season, to bring in a couple guys we already know.
Okay, and then I know that the quarantine has really thrown a wrench into the usual happenings around the park because obviously no one is really allowed there. But what is your mindset with Ron Rivera and the way that he is running the organization? Because let's be honest, he's running the organization right now. With regards to years past, do you see a huge difference with structure or anything like that? Is it more tight knit? What is your opinion on how he's been able to run the organization thus far?
You know what? For true comparison points, I have to see them together, and because all I have right now is him talking when we do the occasional Q&As and things like that. I mean, I think, look, Bruce Allen, I think everybody in general was pretty happy when he went from Bruce Allen to Rivera, the fresh start, all that. I think that's important. And like, I think Rivera's preaching of the culture change that needs to happen. I think that's important because I really do think that's a big factor of all this. But at the end of the day, it's still hard to tell because we just don't see them out there. You don't see how the players are reacting. So it really is just hard to say. And look, who knows, even in a couple of weeks, if everything goes off and we have training camp and we are out there, still, we'll see. This will really be the first time they've all been together. How long does that take, to get what he wants? I'll just say that when I talk to people around the league, a lot of people really do like Ron Rivera. And so based on that, look, and he did a good job in Carolina, made a Super Bowl. What was he?
He won Coach of the Year twice.
Twice, right? It's been so long since I looked those stats up, but yeah, twice. And they did obviously some good things. So he's a proven guy that can get the job done in this league. And but there's a lot more on his plate than he ever had there. I think that's the big question. And he's having to do all this with a new team, with a young team that he has not been able to work with on the field this whole time.
Yeah, and so I only have 2 more questions for you. The first one is, do you think, I know there's a lot of speculation with a lot of people, that Debbie Downers, that don't think that the actual season is going to go down. So let me ask you, do you think it is going to go down? And how much of a difference is it going to be? I know that you don't have a crystal ball. You can't see into the future and how it's going to go down. But how would you see it being different than years past?
Well, I think they're going to try. I mean, we all get it. There's too much money at stake. In the new NFL agent survey that I have up on the Athletic Grass, 30 different agents, a bunch of questions on a variety of league topics. Some fun things like who had the best offseason, which GM do you trust or least, or trust the most and the least, but also questions about the season, COVID-19, how do you deal with it? And one answer that probably stuck with me was, the NFL is a sport where injuries happen a lot, and people are used to look. We don't have to look farther than this team, where it's very much a next man up situation. You bring in different people off the street, practice squad, whatever, to get the job done. It may come to a point where, at least initially, the COVID-19 situations are treated sort of like that. You're starting left guard, your nickel cornerback is tested positive, needs to sit. Okay, who else we got? We need to go to the practice squad. We need to go to the guy off the street. Okay, and very basically on the most cynical level possible, you've got that jersey behind you. Somebody's going to play in a jersey, and that's what they care about. It'll be the Washington football team against the Dallas Cowboys, and there will be people playing in the game wearing those jerseys. That's what matters the most. Beyond that, whether the product is good, whether everybody else is playing, that may be secondary. And as long as if that is the approach, they may play as long as they can. But I would just say that regardless of it's not even just the NFL. All these sports are coming back. The first time we have a situation where some player who seemingly is okay otherwise, tests positive, has to go to the hospital, goes on a ventilator or worse.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you keep going or how the players decide they want to keep going. I just don't know how that works.
Yeah.
I mean, you're already seeing that in baseball with players sitting out saying that they're not going to play just because it's not worth risking it. So as soon as that were to happen in the NFL, I think you're 100% right. It would just end up getting shut down. And let's pray that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and then one quick question, just to wrap this up with you, Ben. I ask every guest this that comes on, and I have to get your opinion. If there is one player in particular that you think is going to have the biggest leap under Ron Rivera if the season does go down this year, who would you be betting your money on?
Wow, an actual football question. So I feel like I want to pick somebody on the defense because of Rivera. I mean,
good.
I'll just say offensively, I'm skeptical as to what's going to happen. I mean, this is obviously, the news today about Kelvin Harmon only takes away even a guy who was already sort of a borderline starter, and now it's even less depth. There's a lot of questions there. But defensively, you've got a lot of interesting pieces.
Yes,
for sure. I don't know if he'll take the best leap. I think the guy I'm maybe most curious about on the defensive line is Jonathan Allen, because we've heard a lot of good things, and because when he was the first of these defensive linemen picked in the first round, he was like, okay, we have Jonathan Allen, we have a good thing, and he's been okay. He's been solid. He's gotten some sacks, but it doesn't feel like he's been all in yet. They've really unlocked him completely, and now you've got what people would assume is better coaching between all the pieces that you have there, led by Rivera and Jack Del Rio. You've now obviously got 4 consecutive first-round picks on the defensive line, highlighted now by Chase Young. Jonathan Allen's never going to see a double team. Can they really figure out? And I think the guy works hard. Can they figure out a way to get him, get him unlocked? Is the term I've used a lot about the defense. And I could probably point to, Cole Holcomb. I could probably point to maybe even Landon Collins. Because he was fine last year, but maybe now with a better work up front, he'll get more space to work. But I kind of like Allen, especially going into effectively a contract year. He's tag him next year, but if they don't, and we're seeing this with Sheriff, then who knows what happens. So I think Allen has a good chance to have a big leap, but I'm kind of interested to see if he does.
Yeah. So I love your answer there, because so far we've had Morgan Moses say Dwayne Haskins, and then we had Lake Lewis say Darius Geis. So it's good to see you go over to the defensive side of the ball, give those guys some love. And I'm excited to see Jonathan Allen as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and that's a logical answer to that. And so I really appreciate you coming on, Ben. We've been following your work for years. We're diehard Redskins fans. We've been reading your columns all over the years, and I really appreciate you coming on and giving us your 2 cents on the whole situation. I know I kind of pressed you on there a little bit with what the unspoken news is as of right now, but I really do appreciate you coming on, Ben, and we love the work that you do.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. I like the passion you guys have. This is a good show. Keep it up. Good stuff. And hopefully we have things to talk about. If not, we'll all be pulling out I don't know, list after list after list, and talk. Who knows what we'll be talking about? But we'll talk about it.
We've already been there. We're running out of stuff to talk about at this point.
I
Thank
appreciate
God
it,
we have
Ben.
the most drama-filled organization in all of sports.
Yeah, this is going to be a crazy week. Well, I appreciate you, Ben. I know you're really busy. Get back to work, and I appreciate you coming on, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys. Thanks so much.
All right, have a good night, Ben.
Take it easy, Ben.
Well, that was fun. This is crazy times with what's going on right now around the Redskins. And it's really weird to think about that the biggest news isn't the name change, because rumors are flying right now about how crazy this news is. I know Julie Donaldson said it's sad and disappointing, which makes me think, I've heard rumors that it's about the Redskins not being able to play in Maryland or Virginia. What have you guys been hearing?
Well, that's part, so many different people are putting out different tweets. And like Ben said, they're all kind of cryptic, but they all kind of allude to the same thing.
Right.
They all of them end up saying something about racism has no place in sports, and sexism has no place in sports.
Mm-hmm.
And we were kind of talking about a little bit earlier, Kyle, and you had kind of brought up that maybe this has something to do with the cheerleading scandal that happened years ago. And when you said that, that just kind of came to my head. Like that would actually make a lot of sense if Alex Santos, I don't want to say that he did, but possibly had something to do with that. And because that just kind of disappeared out of nowhere. Everybody forgot about it. And now it would make sense if it got brought to Ron Rivera. And now all of a sudden Ron Rivera's like, nope, this can't happen. You're gone. Clearing house. Get out. So who knows if that's the case? I mean, it would kind of make sense. It checks all the boxes, but who knows what's going on right now? This franchise is so messed up right now. It could be so many different things.
Right. And the crazy thing, dude, is I didn't know what Alex Santos looked like. I really didn't.
Neither did I.
Until I saw that picture and I looked at him and dude, I'm not kidding you. I just had this like intuition. I was like, dude, that guy just looks like a creep. You know, it's like I don't know what it was, but then I just had this like weird feeling about it, you know, and
looks like a real piece of shit.
But the abruptness of the news I thought was insane, because generally with Redskins Park, you will get leaks. You will hear things sprinkle out about somebody. And the fact that came out of nowhere, nobody knew, and then the media is kind of being quiet about it. Like Ben said, with personal matters, the media always holds back, because if they go out with a story and come out personally attacking somebody, they're liable for a lawsuit. So that's why I kind of looked at it as like, man, this seems like this is a lot bigger than football, in my opinion. Right. What was your opinion on that, Hall?
Yeah, like you said, before we got on, we were kind of just talking to each other, just chatting it up. I was scrolling through the Twitterverse, and like you said, one of the first tweets I saw on my timeline was Julie Donaldson.
Yeah.
And I was kind of taken back, like, oh man, something's coming down the pipeline. Like, so I definitely was getting the vibes off of, like you said, the whole cheerleader scandal. But again, I've been seeing on Twitter and kind of like reading, like, I guess not reports, but just kind of like just random ass like stuff about like you just mentioned, like how they might not be getting the stadium in DC, or something about like Dan Snyder's moving the team out of like Maryland to like deep somewhere in Virginia or something like that. So I would say that's not the latter, because I mean, hopefully it's obviously, but if it's the latter, I'm going to be devastated, because
obviously,
the hope that's going to unite the fan base a little bit,
right?
Other than the name change, everything else is if they can get back to RFK. So
and that was kind of like when they first broke this news yesterday, when they released the statement that about the Redskins are going to retire the Redskins name, and then reporters also said, and watch out, because there's going to be a bombshell that's going to be dropped that's going to shake it. And every single person was speculating, like, Dan Snyder's going to sell the team. This is horrible. And we were all like, oh, that's kind of a good thing. Maybe it's not that. But then they started saying that maybe the team's going to move somewhere else. Maybe, you know, everybody was speculating all this crazy stuff, and they still haven't dropped this bombshell. And it's just so frustrating. Just get it out there. Yeah. If somebody did something messed up and they're a piece of shit and they did something that they need to be called out on, call them out. Just do it. In today's cancel culture, with everything going on, you get a free pass to call people out on their bullshit if they're creeps. So just do it. Put it out there, please.
Look at the energy coming from Reed. I can feel it.
It's because I've been on the beach for 4 straight days and I'm sunburned and I'm pissed.
Dude, it absolutely sucks. The fact that the Redskins just cannot seem to get out of the news. And look, I understand it, because it's giving us something to talk about during this quarantine when there's not much going on. But at the same time, in my mind, thinking about this in a macro scale, if I'm the Redskins, it would make a lot of sense why they haven't said anything about the new name. Because they're waiting for whatever this bombshell is. And because Julie Donaldson's quote, sad and disappointing, would mean it's incredibly negative against the Redskins. And if I'm the Skins, I'm releasing that name change after that news drops. What about you, Hall?
You release that before, and then this bombshell comes out. Obviously, the whole name change and the new era.
Exactly.
Redskins football just gets washed right away, and it's more negative news for the Washington franchise. And I'm just ready for the drama to be over and get on the field at this point. Like,
and that's the worst part. Is it's like, yes, like, honestly, for people like us who get to talk about it, like, it's kind of cool that, like, at least the Redskins are keeping shit interesting right now. Like, at least there's constantly something going on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like everybody else in the NFL is just looking at us like, oh, of course they would. Of course that happens. And like we were talking about earlier, if those reports are true that Dan Snyder is out on his yacht somewhere in France, nowhere to be found, and Ron Rivera is just sitting there dealing with this, you got to feel bad for Ron. He's brand new here, hasn't even coached a game yet, hasn't even started mini camp or training camp. Like, this is a lot for one person to handle, and I just hope that whatever it is gets solved and they get some leadership in there, because Ron's the guy to lead. He's the guy to do it, but he needs people there to help him. He needs to focus on football, getting our players ready.
Look, I absolutely love Doug Williams with all my heart. He's a great
100%.
dude. But could you imagine him being the number 2 to Ron right now?
No, you couldn't even understand what he said.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't mean to be a douche or a dick, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, it sucks because it does seem like Ron is on his own. And I said this to Zach Selby, and I said it last week on the pod. You know, I just don't want Rivera regretting being here.
Exactly.
And I really hope that when Ron and Dan sat down and met, that Dan told him, look, dude, this is what's coming down the pipeline. I'm going AWOL. I'm paying you all this money. Go buy your Martha's Vineyard, whatever, out in Cali. Do everything that you want. But when the crap hits the fan, I'm going to need you. And that kind of seems like what's going on here. It's absolutely insane to me that there would be even news bigger than the name change. And like Ben was talking about, I didn't have a problem with this statement. I really didn't, because it's the Redskins coming out and saying, fine, we'll change the name. Here's a statement. That's what they're doing. And they're saying, yeah, we're still going through the process and everything like that, still with no timetable. And I know everyone, including Lake, said they want a name by the time of the start of training camp and the start of the season. But in my mind, I really think that they had an idea in mind. That they had an idea in mind this entire time and something in their back chest, because there is no way that they're going to go this season by calling themselves the Washington football team. I just don't see that happening. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, no, I agree. And going back to what you said about like Ron kind of like being the guy to take all the blunt force and everything like that. I mean, it would make sense because obviously for the past 10 years, Bruce Allen's been the guy to kind of shield Dan Snyder and take all the blowback and be the guy to trot people out for him and do his dirty work. So it makes sense for him to be like, yeah, Ron, I need you to be my new Bruce Allen, just kind of be the face and be the guy. Unfortunately, with the whole name change and Dan Snyder not having a real backup plan and like a plan B in his back pocket, he's clearly not a forward thinker. So I don't even think he even thought about like, oh, I'm going to try Ron out there to take all the blowback. Just being that antisocial weirdo that everyone knows him as, just like, oh man, But as far as like the whole name thing that you were saying, I've been seeing on Twitter and like it's going back to like the reports I've been like on Yahoo and like ESPN stuff like that. I've been seeing that it's narrowed down to 2 names. It's just trademark issues, and what I was hearing on 106 today, actually earlier on the I think Grant and Danny, but
is Kyle's head about to explode?
Yeah, that it's coming down to like the 2 names. There's trademark things, and it's like pretty much they're going to fast track it. And NFL is going to help them fast track it so they can get the name either before training camp or within the first couple of days of training camp. So this whole thing can kind of get blown over, and we can move on, and we can actually get back to actually like Ben said, wow, football questions, like talk some football.
Yeah, well, that was also one of the things that the guy Ben had talked about it. The guy who was apparently sitting on all these trademarks. They made a big deal about that, and it ended up, you were the one who told me about it originally, about what he really was doing with it. And then I went back and watched the 106.7 video, and yeah, he 100% said, he's like, I got these names. I thought it was funny. I kind of did it as a joke, but I kind of just want him to change the name, so I'll give them to him. I mean, I don't care. Like my trademark, like he's not going to make it an issue and be like, here, know, whatever. So
he could say that publicly, but I know that there was one guy in particular that put out that tweet that said all of those labels, all those names that he had put out for cost about $20,000. And when you talk about that,
he said something. It was like 2,000 per name or something.
No, it was like 250 per.
Yeah, 250.
No normal human being just has $20,000 sitting around to drop on names without it being reciprocated.
I don't know, man. Have you seen unemployment rates lately?
That's true. I know somebody who got $12,000 on unemployment.
Dude, I haven't been working since
that
COVID.
Is ridiculous.
I'm stacking paper.
It was like about to be like, dog, give me your car. This is bullshit. But
yeah.
I got $6,000 in back pay the other week. I was like, all right, tight.
Yeah, it was like 5 months worth of back pay.
So but it's kind of shitty. But
what?
but anyway, just to switch things up a little bit, because I had been on the beach, I'd been doing stuff all day. What exactly happened to Kelvin Harmon? Do we know how he got injured, or do we know anything about timetable?
He was working out. He tore his ACL. First off, sorry to hear about Kelvin Harmon.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Dude, I hit up Serge and I was like, dude, please tell me this didn't happen yesterday. I just did a film breakdown on Kelvin Harmon yesterday. News
By the
gets
way,
out
you
that
did a great film breakdown on him. People check that out on Twitter. Go to Kyle's Twitter. Check that out. He destroyed it. You did excellent.
And then I hear him tearing his ACL, and I was like, dude, please don't tell me I brought bad juju. Please don't tell me to do that. And I was going to do a Redskins player every single day this week, but after that, I was like, no, I'm done. I can't do it.
You're not doing anybody. Yeah.
I'm not risking it again. But from what we've heard,
a Cowboys player.
Maybe a Cowboys player. But from what I've heard, it happened about a month ago that Kelvin Harmon got surgery last week. And generally ACLs, I know it's gotten a lot better with technology and the kind of rehab process.
Still takes time.
Yeah, there's guys. I think there was like AP came back like in 6-7 months or something like that.
He's a freak.
Freak of
nature.
The
outlier.
Like over 2,000 yards.
Yeah, nobody does that. He's the outlier. Even the doctors were saying like, he shouldn't be able to do this. This is crazy.
He actually got injured against us. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that is crazy to think about, isn't it?
Yeah.
But much prayers to Kelvin, because after watching his film, I actually got to see his brilliance. He was a tough wide receiver, loved to
Such
just
a
run,
physical guy,
run through people, and he would have really benefited under Ron Rivera, and I think he would have done an incredible job. But this begs the question, guys, with Kelvin Harmon being out, do the Redskins go pull the trigger on a veteran wide receiver that's out in the free agent market like Josh Gordon or Antonio Brown? Because look, they still have Cody Latimer on the roster, but we don't know if Cody Latimer is going to be around because we're going on with that whatever case that is that happened a couple months ago, that unfortunate case. So let me ask you, Mike, if you had a decision to make, Hall, let me ask you, which route would you go? Would you keep who we have in the chamber, or would you go out in the free agent market and go get somebody?
I mean, obviously, if everyone kind of peeped a little Twitter back and forth, it was like only little eyeballs. But Josh Gordon, whenever
him and Dwayne
out about Harmon tearing the ACL, Josh Gordon put the little emoji eyes, and of course Dwayne Haskins, being the social media savvy guy that he is, gave him a little eyes back, like,
dude.
So obviously, like everyone else has been thinking it for a while. Like the Redskins need to go out to the veteran guy. A lot of people have been saying AB. Dwayne Haskins is working with AB, but
dude, can I cut you off just real quick? Because I was listening to Chad Dukes. I went to go get Duncan. I went to go get a coffee. I was just feeling tired, and he brought up a very good point. And this is how I kind of felt. And it was like, why are you advocating for Josh Gordon to replace Kelvin on Kelvin Harmon's Instagram post?
Yeah.
I felt like that was kind of bad, dude. I felt like that's like
think about that. That's true.
That's pretty shitty.
Rubbing him the wrong way. It's like you're already trying to replace him, acting like he's not that big of a deal, And I felt bad for Kelvin because it just felt like it's like kind of kicking a guy while he's down a little bit. But look, it's Instagram comments, it's whatever it is. But so sorry, going back to you, Hall. But I thought Chad Dukes made a very valid point there.
Yeah, that is a good point. But I mean, if you think about it, they drafted Gandy Golden to kind of replace Harmon or let them battle it out.
Yeah.
Presumably replace Harmon. So, I mean, NFL's next man up. And, I mean, of course, as a teammate and just, like, being that just happened as an injury, it's kind of like, come on, bro. Like, really? You can't, like, DM Josh Gordon yourself and be like, emoji eyes. But, yeah, going back to between the two of them, I would probably lean towards probably Josh Gordon. I know AB's been working out with Dwayne. They got the connection. They can throw in the dart to each other. And you actually mentioned this earlier, Kyle, that AB would do great wonders for Steve Sims, and obviously probably do great wonders for Antonio Gibson as well.
Yep.
As he kind of gets in that kind of slot receiver role into the NFL. So, but at the same time, I'm going back and forth with it because I think AB has finally kind of humbled himself to the point where he's like, if I get signed by a team, I got one shot left to get this right. And I cannot screw it up or else I'm done for the rest of my career.
But
Gordon, I mean, something traumatic could happen in his life. He can go off the end, and then, it's just a dull signing, a dead signing. But I would go Josh Gordon.
Yeah, but like the one thing for me though with AB, it's like, like AB is humbled now. I guess you could say he's a lot more chilled out. He's not the same dude. But my question is, what happens when things are going good? What happens when he turns back into a superstar? Is he going to go back into that kind of way of thinking that he can't be touched and that he can do whatever the hell he wants? Because obviously Ryan Clark said it the best. When the Steelers gave him that big contract, he said, you created a monster.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I'm worried about with stardom with AB. Now, if it's me, I know that Scott Turner actually was the OC of Josh Gordon back in Cleveland in 2013. 2013.
When Josh Gordon had that huge year.
So I think Josh Gordon would probably be the easiest fit because he knows the kind of offense
exactly
that Scott Turner runs. So I would go with Josh. So sorry, Reed. Sorry to take that away from me. What were you thinking?
No, I was going to say the same thing. I think that Josh Gordon would make the most sense just because like a lot of people don't seem to know, or they never talk about the fact that Scott Turner was a wide receivers coach in Cleveland in 2013 when Josh Gordon had that amazing year. That was back when he was the next big thing and people thought he was going to be, what he should have been. And it was unfortunate, but I mean, look, the guy's still talented. I really like where we're at with Antonio Gandy Golden. The only thing is nobody knows how he's going to play. I think some fans have kind of already penciled him in as the starter opposite Terry McLaurin, even over such as Kelvin Harmon. But he still has to prove a lot, and you do kind of need a veteran guy in there. But I would go personally Josh Gordon over Antonio Brown just because, look, Antonio Brown, Hall of Fame player, he was for a long time. He was one of the best wide receivers, if not the best, in the NFL. He can do it all. I know he's been working with Dwayne, but that CTE just scares the shit out of me. That guy is a head case. I know he seems like he may have it together, but he does not. He is unpredictable. He is just out of his mind. And if you're going to pick somebody, if you're going to get somebody with brain damage who's just out of his mind anyway, or a pothead, I'll just take the pothead. Like Josh Gordon, I think that he would fit perfectly too. Opposite, he could be that big body, tough guy, kind of like Kelvin Harmon. And so I would go with Josh Gordon. I just, like you said, he knows Scott Turner. He knows what he likes. He knows what he expects from his receivers. And I would love to see that redemption story.
Yeah, look, I
think we should give AGG a chance.
I hate that excuse with AB because I don't think the guy has crazy amounts of CTE. I just think
he 100% does.
I think that
before, like Ryan Clark said, with the contract, he started acting like an
exactly. So the money,
what
stardom.
they said was after that hit from Vontaze Burfict, his teammates started saying he started acting really fucking weird. Like he always like got boisterous and was kind of loud after the contract, but after the hit, that's when he started saying shit that didn't make any sense. That's when he started going off the deep end.
All
so
right.
He's a little bit, you can go either way with it. 100% the guy has CTE. He's just an asshole too. So I don't know.
Yeah, and that's why I don't know what's going to happen once the superstardom comes again. Because look, I'm going to be honest with you. If AB's on the field, he's a star. He's going to ball out. It doesn't matter. And I'm worried about the repercussions from him balling. Now, I have full faith in Ron Rivera being able to maintain this ship, and that I love putting the gif out there, Will Ferrell, like, Gator don't play no shit. Then that's Ron Rivera, that he would be able to kick him right out, given if he did act up a little bit. But I've said it before when we talked about this weeks ago, about Josh Gordon and AB being linked to the Redskins. I wanted Kelvin Harmon, AGG, and Steven Sims an opportunity to win a starting job on this roster. Right. That being said, with Cody Latimer's case coming up, Harmon being out for the season,
you need another body.
There is no veteran wide receiver on this club right now. And I think a guy like AB, like Hall was saying, would really benefit Steven Sims. They're like the same player, essentially. And so, but I just don't want to bring that grenade into the room. So if it was me, I would go with Josh Gordon. And I honestly, it's crazy to say, but I think AGG is going to beat him out. AGG was one of my favorite film breakdowns this year. He is the complete package. Yeah. He can run the full route tree. He can jump over guys. He has great hands. And also, he's a phenomenal blocker. He blocks, and he's big, and he's strong. Physical. And that is what you need on the outside, especially in this, like we always talk about with Scott Turner's offense with the pre-snap motions, everything going wide and helping Dwayne and the offense go wide. AGG would really benefit the offense in the run game. And that's why I think AGG would win it.
And he's just such a, like you said, Kyle, he's such a big physical receiver. And with Kelvin Harmon going down with injury, somebody needs to step up and take that role. Somebody needs to be able to go over the middle, make the tough catch for the first down, not be afraid of contact. AGG can fill that role. I mean, it's going to be a learning process. but I think that he has all the ability in the world. I broke down his film too. I loved it. I love what I saw from him. And there was just a video that came out a couple days ago of him making a crazy one-handed catch in the end zone from Dwayne Haskins. I mean, so he's trying to build a rapport with him. No, but it was just so nice. It was just showing you he was good. That's working with Dwayne Haskins.
I watched Terrell Pryor one-hand catch everybody at Redskins training camp. That guy did.
Well, look, Taylor Jacobs was the greatest practice player of all time. I understand it doesn't mean anything. Right. I was just throwing it out there to show that he was working with Dwayne Haskins.
So my one thing is, especially with AGG, the reason why I think AGG is going to succeed and win is because I think he's a lot like Terry. Because Terry, the reason why I was so invested in Terry the day after we drafted him, I said that was our best value pick of the draft, isn't because of his work on the field. It was who he was as a man. And on Twitter, I alluded to this. I think as a man, he's an all-American, Terry McLaurin is. He is your the cream of the crop when it comes to just being a great human.
Hard work and a hard worker.
And I think AGG is a lot like him. I think they have a lot of similarities. They always try to one-up. They're always competing, trying to get better. And that's the kind of attitude you need to have to succeed in the NFL. So all these Twitter accounts, these anonymous accounts that refuse to come on our show and be on video, talk about how they don't think AGG is going to do all that well next year. I wouldn't bet against AGG, and I hope he does see that and work his ass off to be able to go prove some people wrong, because all the eyes are going to be on Terry this season. Everyone knows about Terry and what he did last year, so AGG and Steven Sims have a legitimate chance to make waves, and I think that they will.
So real quick, go ahead, Hall.
AGG is definitely going to make some waves. I've just seen and I've watched Josh Gordon, even going back to when he was with the Patriots. And
he's so talented.
He stepped on the field and was putting up 100-yard games with Tom Brady. Right. Nothing. He's just so physically talented. He's an athletic freak. And, I mean, he's physical, just as like Antonio Golden could be. But I just think that at the end of the day, because Antonio Golden, Gandy Golden had to get a little bit more adjusted to NFL and the speed and
coming from Liberty, and
as far as like off season goes, I think Josh Gordon would beat him out in the beginning, maybe by like week 4, 5, or 6. Gandy Golden might jump him, but could you just imagine coming out in the 3 months?
Oh shoot!
Right.
Gandy Golden on the outside, Josh Gordon in the slot, Terry McLaurin on the left.
We can't forget about Antonio Gibson as well.
And also on the flip side, Kyle, like how you alluded to, Antonio Brown would be perfect to teach Steven Sims Jr. Yeah. Josh Gordon would be perfect to teach Antonio Gandy Golden, kind of show him the ropes, because they're very similar. But so I got a question for you. With Harmon going down right now, who is the odd man out at wide receiver? I mean, if you look at Trey Quinn, I don't think really has a place on this team, but it depends on who we sign. It depends on what's going on. Like,
dude, Trey Quinn, the one thing that he literally relied on the end of last season was being
Gruden?
was being special teams, a kick returner, punt returner.
Right.
Steven Sims took a grenade to that.
Yeah, 100%.
So what's the need for you?
I remember
there shouldn't be a need for him. No, I'm just saying.
Sorry, Hall.
It depends on what they do. It depends on who they bring in, because who knows what's going to happen with Latimer, and then who knows if they're going to bring anybody else in, which they should. I mean, since Kelvin Harmon went down, it's just going to be interesting, because you have to have the right mixture of wide receivers. You have to have guys that specialize at X, specialize at Y, specialize in the slot. So and right now with Kelvin Harmon going down, we don't necessarily have that. Like, we can't bank on rookies and young guys. So it's just going to be interesting. I don't know. It's just something to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, and I saw this one account said that AGG would be the number 3 wide receiver, and I was like, dude, I don't think you understand how depth charts work. AGG cannot work in the slot. What he would be is he would probably be the backup to Terry at the X, or he'd be the backup to whatever is on the outside, i.e. Kelvin Harmon. Right. But that's why I think AGG has a legitimate chance to go win that job, and I think that he should. I'm sorry, Hall. Yeah. We were cut you off earlier. What were you saying?
No, I was just gonna say, I just remember we drafted Trey Quinn, and I just had such high hopes for him. Like, I thought
the white slot receiver.
And he was just gonna kill it in the slot. I even drafted him in fantasy.
He reminded you of Cole Beasley.
Yeah, he's gonna get 80+ catches next year. He's gonna kill it.
Yeah.
He killed my hopes and dreams because he sucks.
He was a Jay Gruden guy. He was somebody that Jay was in love with for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah. I should have learned a while ago when he was putting all his stock in Colt McCoy. If Jay Gruden backs you, I probably shouldn't.
Right. Probably should.
Which is funny to say, because didn't Scott McCloughan say that Jay Gruden was one of the best talent evaluators as a coach that he has worked with?
Yeah, but that's also coming from the guy who swore up and down Matt Jones was going to be the best running back in the NFL.
And Josh Doxson was going to be the next big thing.
Yeah.
Dude.
So maybe Scott McLuhan was drunk the entire time he was here, but
That was his drinking buddy, probably.
yeah,
What a
what a
time.
waste.
And we thought the Scott McLuhan thing was like an insane circumstance that happened to the Redskins.
Right.
2020 just blew that up.
We talked, that was so funny because Kyle, the first episode of this show that me and you did was about Scott McLuhan getting fired.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? We recorded it on a shitty microphone at your apartment in Frederick,
Yeah.
or your condo in Frederick. And we were talking about the whole conspiracy behind Scott McLuhan getting fired. And it was just Bruce Allen being jealous. This just completely, everything that's been going on just completely blows that out of the water. That seems like fucking child's play to this stuff.
Yeah.
This is getting crazy right now.
I know.
Some of these, could I just say real quick, some of these accounts that are just so diehard with Red Wolves because they care so much about the species, they just want to, they go out there and they're like, it's just really important to me because, we want to save these animals. Like Kyle said, join PETA. There's a reason that those wolves are dying out.
Yeah.
And you guys are being annoying as shit right now on Twitter.
They're howling and they dream about these Red Wolves, man. Like, they love them.
I know. They're just going crazy. I was behind it at first, and then the Red Wolves Twitter has just pissed me off so bad that I want nothing to do with the name now, just because their tweets are so sucky and douchey.
Dude.
I don't want it.
When Al put out that tweet, I was like, dude, who are you trying to lie to here? You woke up out of your sleep howling, yelling Red Wolves, and then in the middle of the night at 2 a.m, you walked downstairs and typed it on your computer because it says web app, which means it's either on a laptop or on a computer. You're really going to tell me, dude, that dude was slinging drinks and was just chalking it up with Fred Smoot or somebody. Was like, I can't wait to be the Red Wolves. That's exactly what it was. You didn't wake up out of nothing. That was so lame.
It's so funny. I brought up the Red Wolves thing because I love how into it Kyle gets. Kyle is so against it, and like me and Hall are kind of like I guess like, yeah, it could be cool. Like we could incorporate wolves, but like it's not the best. But I guess I'll be all right with it. Meanwhile, Kyle now is like, because of Red Wolves Twitter, no. If it's Red Wolves, I'm gonna continue calling them Redskins, and my head's gonna explode. And
my biggest problem is the whole howling thing. That is the lamest thing I have ever heard in my life. Yeah. Look, I went my high school, the Clarksburg Coyotes, have a howl at the game. We went last year to see my brother play his senior year playing football. They did the howl multiple times. It gets annoying after the second or third time. That is something you do at like a high school pep rally, dude.
No,
this is a $1 billion franchise.
Fury. That's something that you do if you're a furry. If you're dressing up like animals and going to Comic-Con convention. You howl. You do shit like that.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I saw this one tweet today. This one dude was like, "Y'all got me fucked up. You think I'm gonna be out there howling at games?"
No, you don't talk to the guy that howls, no matter what. If you go anywhere and you see some drunk dude with his shirt off and face painted howling, you stay away from that guy. You tell your kids not to go near that person. And look, don't be that guy.
People at the bars, every time something good happens,
yeah, right.
But I'll be honest with you guys. I mean, you kind of know my background. You know how I'm like, I'm a theorist. And the whole reason why I was so adamant about not liking Red Wolves is because from the jump, I did not like the respect that they were giving to Warriors. And it was almost like it was anything but Warriors. And they were trying to force this through.
You're 100% right.
And I was seeing this as a really weird thing because I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but all of the polls, all of the people that talk about the endangered species and everything are linked to one newspaper. And that's the Washington Post. And the reason why I had a big issue with it because Bezos was trying to buy into the Redskins. Now, if he's pissed off about not being able to buy into the Redskins and he's having his minions go out there and throw out a different name to be able to infiltrate our fan base and to get them to love a name, and because he knows that's not going to be the name. So when the new name gets released,
this is my favorite Kyle.
It's going to cuts the fan base right in half because they already dislike it because they've fallen in love with this whole name that they think that they're bringing up. I felt like it was really weird. And so what I did over the weekend is I called out those accounts and I said, look, come on to our show. You could talk about the Red Wolves all you want. We'll give you the pedestal. We'll give you the stage. And he didn't respond. Adam Aniba tagged him. I tagged him later on. He did not respond until league reports
Bentley-
came out
yeah,
that the Redskins
okay.
were going to release info in 48 hours. Then he responds and says, okay, if they release a name in 48 hours, I'll come on then.
Right.
Who are you, dude?
Watch, you're going to be wrong. It's going to be some like 20-year-old down from Nebraska.
I really hope so, because it looks like he just got 2 people fired. Because right after he talks about getting the email for Ron and Dan Snyder, he puts out 3 hours later, he's like, I have a really bad feeling about this. Well, good. You should, because you just snitched on Gabe Henderson, who was the Redskins social media director up until, I think, February, and then he went to Minnesota. So when you say you got the email from a former employer, who's the only person that would have been in that time frame that Ron was there?
Right. That's true. I will say, Redskins today and Bentley Haskins have just been pissing me off lately on Twitter, just because they're so annoying how hard they're pushing Red Wolves. And like, there's nothing against them, but it's just like, stop. It sucks. It's not that the name sucks. It's just that you forcing it down everybody's throats is making us all think that it sucks. And to be honest, what a red wolf is a cross between a coyote and a gray wolf. It's somewhere in the middle. So it's a fucking fox. Call it a fox. That's what it is. Okay. There's a reason they're going extinct.
I'm telling you, I've been going back and forth with them all weekend. I've been calling them out on their crap. And look, you have to pay attention to the polls, because the Yahoo comes out earlier this morning and says Red Tails is in first, Warriors is in second. But then the Washington Post, like 4 hours later, releases their own article by a Washington Post reporter and says that the Warriors is an unexcited, I forget what it was, like a dull response. Like basically shooing Warriors to the bottom of the post.
You said uninspiring.
Uninspiring.
Yeah.
How was that the case? Yahoo just came out and said it was number 2.
Right.
So what is going on with the Post here? And the reason why I had such an issue with it, because there was these anonymous accounts that we cannot connect anything to. We don't know who these people are. We really don't. These people could be living in Afghanistan for all we know and just sending out tweets about the Redskins. We don't know who they are, and they're dividing the fan base, in my opinion. Because now look at Twitter. Twitter is overloaded with people that love this Red Wolves name that looks like somebody made in 5 minutes in their basement and then released it like a high school mascot. Can we stop this? Like, I feel like it's a divisive tactic that I'm seeing, and I hate to see it happen to my fan base. And that's why I wanted to make sure that I hated that name, and I hate the how. I think it's so lame, and I want to make sure I'm adamant about this. I hate the R's. Can we go away from R's? Because George Preston Marshall, the Hail to the Redskins, is off of Nazi Germany. Hail Hitler. That's what he's like. Hail to the Redskins. We have to get away from George Preston Marshall. All of it. Let's cut the cord.
That was my original thing. I've literally texted this to you guys 1,000 times, but to me, Red Wolves just sounds so forced. Like, just because it has the name Red in it, you're going to go with it because it sounds cool. Redskins, Red Wolves. And like I said, I love the idea of incorporating wolves. I think that you can do a lot with that. I think that they're badass animals. It's original in the NFL. Nobody else has that. But you're trying too hard with Red Wolves.
Yeah.
Like, pump the brakes on that, guys. If that's the name, that just sounds shitty. It doesn't roll off the tongue right.
Exactly.
I'm gay. What?
No, but you're absolutely right. The whole Red Wolves thing, it's just way too much. It's forced. Now, I know a lot of people are saying you can't. I know Black Lives Matter came out and said that you can't do Red Tails because you can't do a group of people.
Fuck that, though, because it doesn't matter, because the Tuskegee Airmen, the counselor of their board, said, yes, that would be an honor. We would love that. So it doesn't really matter
now
that
goes against my R, but my whole point is the reason why Warriors makes the most sense. It's kind of head scratching to me why Ben didn't think that the military connection with Warriors and the DC region is there, and that's 100% the only thing that we have in DC. If we're not going to be the Federals,
we're not going to be the politicians,
right? And so my whole thing is with Warriors, you can actually have the Red Tails under that umbrella. You can actually have a specialty uniform.
Pay tribute to them.
You can have a specialty uniform. You can have an intro video in the stadium, or you can have a statue in the new stadium once you release Warriors and everything. You can have a statue dedicated to the Red Tails. It all falls in line.
Right, because let's be real. The idea behind Red Tails is amazing. I love that idea. I love paying tribute to them. I love all that. It's just the name is so not good for a football team. Like, think about the memes. Just think about the memes when they announce that name of us only having red tails because we're constantly getting our asses kicked or whatever. Like, the memes are going to be terrible. But I love the idea behind it. And like you said, that could fall under the Warriors umbrella. I'd be okay with that.
Now, sorry.
I just hate how people are pushing, like, in the media, whether it be people on 106 talking or even on ESPN,
Yes.
like a bunch of people on Around the Horn talking
Yes.
about, like, oh, they cannot go with the Warriors because it's still going to be offensive and it's too close to the Native Americans. And it's just
When
That
have you
makes
ever
no
called
sense.
anybody? When have you
That's
ever
what-
called anybody a
that's the whole thing
warrior and
about
have been
the
a bad thing?
Why are y'all pushing the
Right.
narrative that the Warriors cannot work? Like,
Well, and that was the thing. That's why.
meanings other than and
Right.
even if you want to incorporate it with Native Americans,
Right.
a warrior in their tradition and their culture, I would think is a good thing. I mean,
Yeah, it
maybe
is.
not Native Americans, I don't know, but like common sense would be like that's a good compliment to call somebody. But this is Chris Russell's the main one that's pushing it on 106. And every
Yeah,
time I
but
hear him talk, I'm just like, you Peter Griffin lookalike, shut up.
Yeah, but that's also why if you go on Twitter and go look at Keith Ishmael's Twitter, Keith Ishmael brought up a great point about that, how they were saying no type of people are anybody's mascot, and he was like, all right, I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
What about Fighting
to him.
Irish? What about Vikings? What about Cowboys? What about Yankees? And he was like, does that not matter? Like, those are people too that we're making a mascot out of. Like, it's not that deep. You guys got to stop looking at it's to pay tribute to the person. It's not to make them a cartoon. It's not to make them, it's you choose that because you think that they're badass and you want to pay respect to them.
Yes.
It's not that you're trying to sit there and make fun of them.
Yeah. And
We don't have the Cleveland Indians old logo.
Right. And
Remember that?
The one thing for me is, I look, you guys know I love Grant Paulson. He's one of the reasons that inspired me to start this podcast, because I love listening to Grant talk. But he pissed me off yesterday by talking about how switching to Warriors would be too close and it wouldn't be a good separation. Grant, when you take away Redskins, when you take away the logo, it cuts the tie completely. If you're trying to gel the two together, that's unfair, and that's not logical, and that shouldn't be talked about. And I'm surprised that an adult would sit here and tell you that you can't go to Warriors because it's too close to what?
Right.
The logo's gone.
If you keep the logo and call them Warriors, obviously.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Right. Then it's
change the logo, make it just a W with the like. I saw one concept. It was like the W with like the monuments incorporated in it.
Yeah, that was cool.
Tight.
Right.
Tight. How does that have to do with anything Native American? Like,
right. And
like, what are y'all talking about? Like,
even so, the
want
spear.
Red Wolves. That's all it is. They just all want Red Wolves.
Right. And even the spear, all you have to do is remove the feathers. And there's been plenty of other warriors that have used spears that weren't Native American. Gladiators use spears. So many different types of people use spears. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean Native American. I mean, it should pay tribute, I think, but I get that they don't want it to. But that's the thing, though, with Warriors, it literally covers every basis. It covers the military. It's a good name for a team that, especially in a physical sport.
Yep.
And you can make it mean so many different things that it's almost like it's a perfect name. But nobody ever wants to. They're all stuck on fucking Red Wolves.
Yeah, and
listen to our podcast.
Yeah, and look, I was telling people,
You need to order your food.
you could have you could have like the Marine kind of backlash, like not backlash, but you could have the Marines with like the jacket with the white pants and everything, and with the white cap. The uniform combo would look silly, in my opinion.
Give me 5 minutes.
Looking like the Marines, that
4
would
minutes.
absolutely be awesome, and I think that's the route that they should go down.
Okay, all right, go away.
I'm killing this.
No, go away. I'll order my food in a second.
But in all honesty, like Reed, what I was saying is, I was telling people.
I didn't even know who that guy was.
But I was saying is like they could have like the Marine dress jacket as like a uniform combo, which is the black jacket with the Marine logo on the side, and then you have like the gold buttons down, and then the white pants and the white helmet. I think that would look absolutely sick, and that would be a way to honor the military. And I think honoring the military shows strength, structure, and respect. And I think that is what a franchise and an organization can hold on to for 100 years. Because if anyone's going to tell you that honoring the military is not a sustainable business model, you shouldn't be talking to them.
Speaking of that, going back to Bentley Haskins, did you see what that dude said on Twitter? He was like, well, like 40 years from now, we might be in like a a non-war time and war might be banned. So like if we went with Red Tails, you know, I might just be disrespecting people 40 years from now. I was like, bro,
Delete your Twitter.
That was that. Yeah, log off.
rules, but like if you're gonna put out tweets like something, use logic.
Something and speaking of using logic, Larry Law, stop. They're not going to fire Jack Del Rio because he supports the military or because he supports the president. Just shut up.
Because he responded to Jason Whitlock and he was
because he responded to Jason Whitlock. Just shut up, Larry Law.
Shut up. But one thing I wanted to talk about here. I know it's
AWOD
insane.
Made you.
I want to talk about this because I was telling Serge, and Serge wants me to hear this. But look, I think in the back of my mind, I know it's insane to hear. Everyone's gonna be like, "What?" But I think the Redskins can have a legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl this year, and I'm going to say this because 2 of the Redskins Super Bowls happened in strike years, where it's kind of like it's not normal kind of a season where everyone's kind of like not in the same place, organized in a kind of organization stature. So I think the Redskins could take well advantage of this because they've shown it in the past. That's how they can win Super Bowls in times like this, these random circumstances that they take full advantage and they go whoop up on the league. And so with that thinking, I think the Redskins have a legitimate chance to do something this year. And that's why I feel like there is a minute chance that they could win the Super Bowl.
I hope so.
Like every offseason, I was going to go to like Charlestown or like MGM and put like $100 on the Redskins winning the Super Bowl because they're always like 20-1 odds or 40-1 odds. And by the random chance I actually do win a Super Bowl, I'll be like $4,000 richer. So that'd be pretty tight.
Yeah, that'd be super tight.
I mean, I'm always Mr. Optimistic about the Redskins.
Oops, shit. Hey, I gotta order dinner for the family. I've been waiting on this for 45 minutes.
All right, you're good. Peace.
I'm gonna log off. Let's see. Text me. Let me know when you upload it.
Okay.
All right, bye.
But what were you saying, Hall?
No, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, you know me, I'm Mr. Optimistic, so like, Super Bowl's a little bit out of my like optimistic reach, but again, I could see it happening. Like, you made legit points, and on top of that, we have the talented defense to do it, and if we get accurate or like even just like good quarterback play, the sky's the limit with this team.
Yeah, and because look, maybe the rest of the league, there's a lot of guys around the league that have just been sitting at home like, hey, man, this season's not going to happen, blah, blah. Meanwhile, all of our guys are out there working out all the time, showing you that they're working hard. Maybe they just hit everyone by a storm and punch them in the mouth. And I just think that with the random circumstance, the Redskins have shown in the past, they can win Super Bowls off of that. And they can capitalize on a weird, structured year, and I think they could do that. Now, I know I alluded this on Twitter the other day, but I wanted to talk about this with Reed, but of course he had to leave. But it's so random, I know, but I have to end the podcast with this. We saw Jada Pinkett Smith one time in concert at Ozfest. And look, Ozfest is like Ozzy performs at the end of the show, but they have multiple stages. It's an all-day thing. There's a whole bunch of bands. Well, in the mid of the day, there's an outside stage. And Jada Pinkett Smith, we had no idea, is a lead singer of a death metal band. So she gets up there, and so we're like, oh, cool, let's listen to her. And she's screaming. I mean, it's like borderline screeching. And everyone in the crowd is just like, is it going to stop? Like, do you do this the whole song? And I'm not kidding you, dude. People literally started walking away. Everyone just started literally leaving the stage. That's what I was walking away until I heard, hey, everybody, it's Will Smith. And literally everyone turned back around and came back to the stage.
She had that in her back pocket, like, if this goes south, I got Will with me.
I know. So everyone clowning on Will for everything that's happening. Look, I don't care. Will Smith loved his wife, and he really stuck it out for her. That hit a chord with me because it showed that, like, he cared. He saw what was happening and was like, dude, this can't go down. I got to get him back. But yes, Jada Pinkett Smith is a terrible death metal singer. That was horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, just picturing that in my head, I'm just like, what? That sounds so weird to me.
Look, I'm not a death metal guy, I'll be honest with you. I just went to Ozfest because like one of my favorite bands was playing there, Avenged Sevenfold at the time. And so I wanted to go see them live. And so I just happened to be there. Look, dude, like some of those characters that are in those around those concerts are not people that I vibe with. I'll tell you that. That was a weird day. That was a weird day.
I would be if I went over there. I'd be like,
Oh, well, you know what it was? Is The Offspring was headlining for that stage later on. I think they were after Jada, so that's why we were kind of sitting there waiting. But then, like, we didn't want to wait anymore because we're like, dude, this sounds so terrible. All right. But everyone, thank you so much for tuning into this show tonight. Thank you very much to Ben Standig for coming along from The Athletic. He covers the Wizards and the Redskins. Go make sure you follow him. And also, he's on Breaking Burgundy on Twitter. You can find him there. And everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Please go like and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, and on Good Pods. You can find us on there. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm Kyle.
I'm Paul.
And we'll see you guys on Thursday. We will be joined by Serge, who I'll say it on Thursday, but it's the best Twitter handle on Twitter. I don't care what anyone says. That's the best thing I've ever heard. But also, go listen to the Redskins Tweet Team podcast. They just had on a fellow from Charlotte earlier today, and it's a really good episode. He gives some insight, radio personality, gives some insight into the whole Redskins name change and how, and really actually gives insight into Ron. And how plugged in Ron was with the area. So you'll find out some good tidbits from there. So go make sure you check out Burrows' podcast at the Redskins Tweet Team. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Redskins football. Woo! Won't be able to say that much longer.
Audio Jungle.